Hello, this is Ryan, and today I'm going to go over the Flask and Django Python web frameworks. So let's just get started. Flask and Django are the two most popular frameworks for Python right now. Django's more of it has everything you need ready to go type of framework, and Flask is minimalist and allows you to start from the ground up and build essentially a custom web app every time. So let's talk about the differences between them before we move on. So I'm going to start with Django. Django comes with a lot of useful tools like authentication, so you can have users log in. It has a nice admin panel, so you can manage your data, and it has an ORM, which is great for working with databases. So it makes it real easy. You don't have to add anything onto it to do it. It also already comes with form handling, so users can enter information. It has a easy way through the admin panel to handle users, and it already comes with session handling and other database stuff already incorporated. It's a lot harder to learn than Flask because there's a lot more different aspects to it. But if you're going to be building large projects and you know that, it's worth your time to learn it first, I think. I'm just going to say that up front. So it also already has a lot of security and things built in, so it's just really nice to use. It's one of the most secure web frameworks, if not the most secure, and it's used in a lot of huge projects. Flask is a lightweight version of Django without anything added on. You can immediately start building apps with it in like 5 lines of code. I think you can do. You can actually make a program that can print out "Hello World" in your web browser. From there, you can add templating. You can do a lot of different things. It's great if you want to just make a quick website that doesn't have authentication and just like to visualize data or do something like that. I've used it for. Um, it also allows you to build onto it. So like if you want to ORM, you can add Flask SQ Alchemy. You can use like Flask Security too for a nice like high level authentication. You can Flask admin if you want an admin panel. We're gonna go over all of that, but it's a lot easier to learn and get started with, and you can kind of build onto Django from Flask once you learn Flask. So and that's the path that I went, and I don't suggest going against that path. I just think Django is the better framework to start with, even though it's harder to learn. So when do you want to use Django? When you're having a large project that's going to have a lot of different applications that kind of work together, you're going to want to use Django. Also, it has a lot more third-party solutions already built because you don't want to rewrite code that's already exists. So it's definitely a lot better to just use packages that already exist and just tap into them. They're usually going to have they're usually going to have community support, and they're going to have a lot of things already done that you wouldn't even have thought of as well. And also Django has really great documentation, so if you want to go through and look at that, I suggest doing that and doing a tutorial if you're going to learn it before you start trying to do video tutorials. But after you learn Python. So I have a whole video and blog article about the pathway you want to take to become a full stack developer. So I suggest looking at that as well. When you're wanting to create small applications that are just going to do certain things and not have a lot of traffic, just use Flask. It's great. I've used it for tools. I've actually made quite a few different tools that people run locally on their computers that they just use for like different friends, just as projects to help them with their small businesses and things like that. So I'm going to start diving into the comparing which is better. I'm not going to go through and read all this. I'm just going to mention the main bullet points and saying what I think. So Django has forms built in. Flask, you need WTF forms. They're pretty much even, I would say. They have validation. They do everything you need to do. They have CRSF protection. So those are pretty much equal. And then Django has model forms built in, and you can also get model forms through the WTF or WT forms alchemy add-on, and you can, they're pretty much even as well. Like Django might be a little bit better in this aspect. So as far as templating engines, Flask uses Jinja, which is a third-party one, and Django has its own. I would say that Jinja gives you a little bit more flexibility, but anything that you're gonna need to do, I think you can do in either templating engine. I haven't really heard of anything where Django's templating engine wasn't powerful enough to do things, but I know Jinja kind of gives you more flexibility. As far as authentication, there's no comparison. Django with Django all auth is way better. Flash Security 2 is decent, but and it's maybe a little easier to set up. But once you get a nice setup on your Django authentication with all auth, it's very nice and clean to use. You can use pretty much any kind of social media or website. You can do GitHub, you can do Facebook, Google, whatever you want. It also has 2FA and all kinds of other nice features. It's an industrial grade solution. For the admin panel, this is pretty much another one that's just hand down goes to Django. The admin panel that Django has is a lot easier to set up and work with. It has a lot more powerful tools like inline tabs and things to add data. It's just a way better interface. I've used Flash Admin and I've actually made it decent, but it took a lot of work and just isn't as good. File handling, these are pretty much even if you're just doing files to and from one location. But Django does have some nice built-ins, like it automatically already has support for S3 buckets. Um, it takes almost no setup. With Flask Upload, it definitely takes a lot of setup, and it's kind of an old package, so it hasn't been updated. It may not even be secure anymore. So it's probably better to find a different tool, but that was the standard tool when I used Flask, and I've definitely used it in the past, but it the Django options are way better, way more secure, easier to set up. Third-party support, um, both of them are pretty strong on third-party support, but Django definitely takes the cake. It's used a lot more. It's like 5 to 10 times more programs are used by it. I don't know the exact number, but it's definitely used a lot more because it's already ready to go for most apps. So having third-party support for it makes sense because there's already a lot of things to tap into. If you're wanting to create a dashboard or something that taps into an authentication system, Django already has it set up with an ORM and everything, so your code is going to work consistently across everybody's apps without any kind of errors. Django also has a lot of extra built-in features which are nice. It has built-in caching and logging, email support, um, notification messaging, signals, which is like real-time um, IO, like in and out exchange of data. So you can, like, let's say you have like a instant messaging app, Signals already has you covered in Django, which Flask you'd have to use WebSockets or Socket IO. It has sitemaps built in. It has way better protection built in already, and it stays more up to date than Flask and its third-party security packages. The admin panel is super customizable and easy to use. It has form handling and it has a great template engine, which these things I already noted. So thanks for listening and go with Django. I think if you're going to be trying to build big apps, if you're just going to be building little script style apps, use Flask. Thanks again and have a good night.